Hey, party people. I'm back in the studio. So my eye is now functioning normally. I'm on treatment phase 3. Things are a little bit ugly, still a little bit red, but everything is working okay. So you don't really notice until I start looking to my left. But, I got to move on with my life, right? So yeah, and today's a miserable day to be filming because there's all this ambient noise outside because it's raining a lot and there's tons of splashing. But again, I gotta move on with my life. You guys want more videos? I want to give you more videos. Let's press forward, right? Because tomorrow I'm gonna be on a flight to Israel. I'm going to go visit my family, my husband's family, and I have not seen them in 5 years, and I actually like my in-laws. And it's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there for 10 days. We've had this trip planned for a year. We've had this trip planned for a year, and I'll probably be uploading this while I'm still in Israel. So if you have any recommendations on cool places to buy books, art supplies, makeup, drop me a comment. I'll be all over Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Eilat, Modin, maybe Haifa. So drop me a comment, all right? This video is going to be part FAQ, part book review, because one of many of my frequently asked questions is book recommendations. Number 1, a question I get a lot is, Zoe, what are some of the things I can do to explore illustration style and develop my own style? And one of the best things that you can do is to look at and emulate work of someone you admire a lot. This is a proven technique with hundreds and hundreds of years of history, where painters have been creating copies of work made by the old masters to learn technique and explore style. Artists have been doing this for years, centuries, okay? And you should do the same. Like, even to this day, if you go to big museums like the Louvre, you will see artists setting up easels and painting and copying directly from great masterpieces to study technique, to really understand the lighting. Like, you don't really understand lighting by just looking at something. Like, you really understand it to your bones when you're trying to copy it yourself with your hands, with your paintbrushes. So they're studying technique, they're studying the way it's lit, they're studying brush strokes, they're studying style, they're studying how they're doing the drape, how they are making the skin tone luminous, mixing colors to get the exact colors that the artist used. And you should do the same, okay? You should copy people that you admire to learn all these techniques. And as you are gathering this information for yourself, your preferences, your style, your technique will emerge. This is not an overnight thing, okay? You try this because you admire this style and you mimic it perfectly. You don't try to make a spin-off. No, you study exactly, and then you move forward, and maybe the next one is you're mimicking it but adding your own twist, and you're starting to see what you prefer, where your hand naturally wants to go, things like that. So this book, Big Book of Fashion Illustration, a source book of contemporary illustration by Martin Dawber, is a really great resource. This book is just so many different illustrations by amazing illustrators, so many different styles. Done digitally, done by hand, different media, menswear, women's wear, children's wear, health and beauty products, just all over the place. Varying degrees of design communication versus illustration, just really fantastic. And each piece is labeled with the illustrator's name, the name of their piece and what year they did it, and the medium they used. This one was done in Photoshop and Illustrator. You know, this was done in watercolor. Okay. I actually originally bought this book to support my friend Susie, who's one of the featured illustrators here. Where is hers? Oh, there it is. So Susie Yang, Surfer Girl in Crochet Sweater 2004, Adobe Illustrator. Even in college, she like kicked everyone's computer butts. It was amazing. If you don't know Susie, go watch my designer studio and interview at Taylor and Sage video. She's the second designer that I interview in that video. She is also the one who bought me this mug. Susie and I go way back. She really gets me and my taste and my humor. So anyway, I originally bought this book to support my friend, but as I was looking through it, once I got it, I was like, wow, okay. I really like this. There's so many different styles. I mean, even just on this page, 3 different ways to approach children's illustrations, okay? And so yeah, go look at a bunch of references and really copy the illustration line for line and see what you can learn from that, okay? So this is a great book. I mean, obviously this is not the only fashion illustration compilation book, but I really like this one. I cannot tell you how happy it makes me that you all responded so positively to the color theory video, the first one that I put up. More are coming, okay? Because color theory, I believe, is something that's important to every design discipline, but it's not something, you know, students tend to love in class. And, you know, it's just one of those building blocks on your way to more specific study. And sometimes those subjects can be less popular. But yeah, understanding colors can help you with everything from dressing better, having a cuter house, to being a better designer, everything, you know? And so people ask me if there's a book that I recommend this one. Designing with Color, Concepts and Applications by Chris Dorosz and J.R. Watson. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. My apologies. This is the book that I use to teach my class in. You can tell by all the notes that I have for myself. Don't forget to go over this and don't forget to go over that, okay? This book is really fantastic. It goes over color terminology, and really the focus is how it's used in the world around us. And I like it for so many reasons. Number one, I like it because the text is really straightforward and it's not convoluted, it's not dense, it's really easy to read. Okay? Obviously it's in English, but the text reads as straightforward as you can get it. Another thing that I love is it takes the color concepts and it applies it to, it really shows the applications. Everywhere from old school video games, new video games, historic like masterpieces, here, modern, more kitschy postcards. So you do have the straightforward explaining what an analogous split complementary palette is, and then you get things like how they're used in the world and how they're used on the runway, how they're used in product design. Okay, so a lot of it is fashion, toys, games, so it's all the disciplines. Okay, so really like how it's used in fashion photography. They talk about Pantone colors. I mean, right, again, the theory and then the application in the real world, on the runway, in arts, in products. So I recommend this one highly. And I actually used to teach with J.R. Watson, not in the same classroom, but we taught the same class at the same school. He actually built the syllabus for the class that I taught. And then he taught some of the classes and I taught some of the class. There were other, because, you know, it's a foundation class. So you have to run several sections of the same class. And he wrote the class. He's really smart, really funny guy. Excellent book. You know how like there are things that I say to you viewers slash students constantly? One of them is get out of the house and go look at non-fashion things. And I know there is a percentage of you who do not do fashion, but you watch my channel for, you know, to learn illustration, to learn basic design techniques, because some of you just think I'm funny, whatever. Hey, what's up? And so whatever your discipline is, I encourage you to get out of that little bubble and go explore other things. You know, if you're a comic book artist, put down the comic books, stop watching animation for a second, and go look at fine art, go look at weird graphic design, go look at graffiti, go look at evening gowns. I feel like, you know, animators, they could be better at drawing clothes. Like Pixar. I love Disney movies and Pixar movies, and you know, like I'll watch things and it will make me so mad because the clothes aren't drawn right. And I'm just like, really? You guys have some of the best storytellers and animators in the world, and you can't place an armhole right? Like one of my fantasies is to like work at a big animation studio and to tell them how to draw their clothes better. Anyway, so get out of the house, go look at some stuff that has no relation to your specific field. Okay? A couple months ago, I was in Boston, actually with Susie. This is the Susie video. I was in Boston with Susie and another friend, Tiff. Shout out to Tiff, who is the best hostess a girl could ask for. Okay? So we went to the Harvard Museum of Natural History. Man, that is an awesome museum. I saw like incredible skeletons suspended from the ceiling of gigantic, huge animals. I saw really awesome displays of plant life. They had a whole Native American section. And yes, so the roof is leaking. I have a bucket there. And then my favorite part was the rock and gem collection. And I was in there and I was taking pictures of practically everything. And after I had taken pictures of almost everything for like a quarter of the room, I was like, Zoe, go look if they have a book. So I ran to the gift shop, found this book, went back to the display, checked out the displays without taking any more pictures, and then went on with it. But the exhibit was beautiful. And I got this book. It's published by the Smithsonian, Rock and Gem, The Definitive Guide to Rocks, Minerals, Gems, and Fossils. And let me tell you, you can bet your butt that I will be heavily influenced by the textures and colors in this book in my next collection. Now, if I only had time to design, that would be even better. I feel like all of 2017 has been a matter of playing catch up after being sick. But yeah, the second I have a minute to, look at this. I mean, what is that? It's sulfur. It's yellow, but it grows out of this other non-yellow stuff. And that's what graphite looks like, raw. Okay. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I will definitely be heavily influenced by the color stories and textures, and oh yeah, look at this. Amazing. This book is amazing. Okay, so this book, I've just been like drooling over this book for the past couple of months. So y'all know that I always tell you guys if I've been sponsored by anything or if someone has sent me free stuff or anything. So a few months ago, a company, they're a publishing company in Europe, Spain. Yes, I believe. And they emailed me one day and they were like, Zoe, you want some free books? Like, I'm going to turn down free books, but you know, I'm cynical. So I was like, so what's the catch? What do you want for these free books? And they're like, well, ideally, of course, we would like you to review them on your channel. but you know, we're sending them to you. You can basically do whatever you want with them. We're not going to hold you to that. If you don't review them or if you don't like them, we're not going to, you know, demand them back or anything. So I was like, all right. So they sent me a catalog. I gave them a long list of things that I thought were cool. And I told them, I know this is a long list. You don't have to send me every single one, except they sent me every single one. So I've been reading some of them. So I'm going to share with you half the stack that I got. I'll be sharing the others eventually as I get to reading them all. So yeah, I did get these books for free, but you know, I wouldn't have accepted them if they said something like, yeah, you have to, you know, do something crazy to get them. Like, so I am going to give you my honest opinion on them. This book, I honestly adore. This is Fabrics in Fashion Design, The Way Successful Fashion Designers Use Fabrics by Stefanella Sposito. Those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, especially my design videos, you guys know how I feel about fabrics and how I believe fiber technology is the future of fashion. And, you know, you cannot be a great designer without a really great understanding of the materials that you can create with, all of that, right? And yes, I will be continuing with the fabric series. I will be shooting that when I get back from Israel. This book is really different from the other fabric books that I've shared with you guys, like the swatch book, Fabric for Fashion, and Claire Schaefer's Fabric Sewing Guide. This one takes fabric and approaches it in a completely different direction, and it's awesome. So you have a page like this. This one goes over jacquards, and then it shows pictures of how different jacquards on the runway. They have a little, they credit each designer. So if you fall in love with this code, you can go look up the designer and go check out more of their stuff. And it gives a blurb. And the blurbs all write things like a little bit of the historical background of how this fabric became developed, the technology used to create it, how it's evolved over the years, how fiber content is related. You know, some fabrics are only made with certain very specific fibers, and they go over that. And, you know, jacquard is a composite fabric, complex motifs with various subclasses of fabric such as damask, goblin, lance, ficou. Its name comes from jacquard, blah, 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 machinist in the French textile industry. And I love history, so these little blurbs, just, I love them. And then they talk about the technology. The system permitted memorizing the complete production cycle, composite fabric, including the selvage. And then fabrics woven on jacquard looms are noteworthy for the beauty of the design and fibers used, characterized by the presence of different weaves. And it talks about the aesthetics and how they're used by different designers, and used for making clothes and in decoration, and can be printed on. In the high-end tie sector, catering to a demanding public, jacquard fabrics contain elegant weaving effects and innumerable small jacquard motifs in relief. So how they're used in the products, what kind of products are used, you know, using this fabric. I mean, and oh my, this book is so dense. Each page, all this information and beautiful pictures on how these things are used. And not gonna lie, I have not heard of some of these, okay? So incredible. I skimmed through this, and then I read in depth some of the articles in here, and I cannot wait to like just completely deep dive into all this information, which, you know, you can't do in an afternoon because it's so dense and full of information. So, you know, completely different from, you know, supply chain information in the swatch book and sewing tips. Like, this is completely different from the information there, but it just kind of like rounds it out, right? Rounds out my collection beautifully. I'm so excited to keep reading this. This one, another promo press book, Designing Fashion Accessories, Hats and Caps. And if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you know that I like wearing weird things on my head. It's kind of my thing. I love hats. So that's why I requested this one. And it is just the best hat and hair accessory eye candy book. I mean, this would make for an awesome coffee table book. This would make for a great inspiration book for designers, accessories designers, clothing designers, and also stylists, you know? Each photo has the little design house name under it. So again, if you wanted, you know, if you saw this and you're like, I need to see more from this designer, you can go look them up afterwards. Here's what I don't like about this book. There are no labels for what things are. And I'm not a milliner. I've never designed hats before. I just like wearing them. And so I would like to know what these things are called. Like when you flip through the book, you can tell that there's some kind of organization here, but there are no labels, not even in the table of contents. And I know some of these. I don't know many of the names for these hats. And I wish I did. I mean, obviously some of these defy category, but yeah, that could be in a category called, I don't know, something fancy. But things like this, visors, like I know they're visors. Not everyone knows they're visors. Ball caps. Okay, anyway, so that would have been really nice, but you know, it doesn't detract from the fact that there's like so many pretty things to look at. So that's dope. This is New Necklaces, 400 Designs in Contemporary Jewelry by Nicolas Estrada. And this is another compilation of some ridiculous eye candy, except in the jewelry world. And I think this is more of what I had hoped with the hats book, because this one, it has, each piece has the designer's name, the name that they gave their piece, what each piece is made out of. This one is made out of enamel on copper, stone beads, silver, and glass beads. And then a credit for the photographer. And the photos are beautiful. Again, I think this would make for great inspiration for clothing, jewelry, accessories, all kinds of designers. And also a really pretty coffee table book. Double duty. And, you know, if you're looking for, you know, more conventional jewelry like strands of pearls, diamond solitaires, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're not going to find them here. This is really about pushing the envelope in terms of what can be considered jewelry. It's very different. A lot of things that I'd never seen before, a lot of things that don't look like anything I've seen before. Super fantastic. Love this one. Another thing I like about this book is most of the photographs are done plain. So they're devoid of style references. There's a couple, I mean, there's a few in each section where they're styled on a body, but they keep it pretty minimal. And so it's really up to you to take something and you give it life. You can take these designs in the direction you want to take it. And so you're being inspired by the pieces and not the way it got styled for this book. You know what I mean? This, again from Promo Press, Fashion Details, 4,000 Drawings by Elisabetta, Kuky, Drudi. And I apologize for all the mispronunciations in this video. This is not an instructional book. This is an example book. It shows 5 bajillion million examples of how to draw design details on the human body, on fashion figures. Okay, so a lot of them are black and white, so that you're just really seeing the line quality and the strokes and the drape and whatnot. There are some really great things about this book. The way things are drawn, you know, wrapping around the neck, obeying gravity to fall, fringe, collars, you know, it's moving around with the body pose, right? All these ruffles and smocking and shirring and layers and all that good stuff. The number one problem I have with this book is that there is no reference to what fabric you would be drawing in any of these circumstances. If you watch my Drawing Clothes on Bodies series, I reference over and over again how important it is to remember what your fabric is when you're drawing any garments. So you can, even if it's the same kind of ruffle, it's going to look different when it's done on a stiff cotton shirting versus a fluid, heavy, limp silk jersey. It's really going to look different. You're going to draw them differently on the figure because they're going to look differently on the body. And for designers, I always push the whole make sure it looks like your design. And so if you design something where the ruffles are stiff and stand out, and that's how you designed it, okay, you have to draw it like that. Your fabric has to reflect that, and then it will come out more close to your sketch on the sample, and that's how you can get the best first sample you can get. Okay, if the whole product development process leading up to the sample is as accurate as you can make it. If you draw limp ruffles and then you choose a stiff fabric that'll stand out, and then you make your sample and you're like, well, how come these ruffles stick out instead of hanging? Then there's a fabric understanding drawing disconnect. And so you're gonna have to start all over from, with the ruffles because all this information is not matching up. So for illustrators, I think this is a good reference. Like, I have some small complaints, like I think the figures are very stiff. It's weird because sometimes it looks really nice, like things are wrapped really nicely around the neck and it's really explicit. And then sometimes things just look really flat. Like these look like cardboard cutouts on the body. And that's a problem because when you've been drawing for 900 years like I have, I can pick those out. But someone who's new to it and is using this as a reference would not know that. And so some of their references are flat and some of their references are not. So that's a bit of a problem. What I would have loved to see is, something like this, let's say. Put on different poses so people can understand how the fabric moves with different poses. I think that would have been really helpful. Or if you took something like this and showed how this big ruffle behaved differently with different fabrics, okay? Like if you put a giant wool melton ruffle on an overcoat, how that would behave versus putting a really long chiffon ruffle on a dress, okay? And how that would look differently in the drawing, okay? I think that would have been really helpful. Okay, so for illustrators, I can see how this could be useful because they just want to see how things fit on the body. Oh, another thing I don't like is these lines under the bust. These things don't happen, okay? Sometimes you'll get an under bust wrinkle because the fabric is pulling, okay? You'll see an under bust line if you're drawing brasiers, swimsuits, corsets, that sort of thing, but you don't see that. Okay, you will see a shadow where the bust curves under the light, but you wouldn't see this kind of thing. That makes me nuts. But yeah, so for illustrators, I can see this being a useful resource. It's not something I would recommend for designers because the information is incomplete. And I think you should have picked up by now. I do these incredibly long, thorough videos because I hate incomplete information. Shoot me all your questions below. I'll have the full titles and authors' names in the description box below. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And share, subscribe, all those beautiful things. Drop me all your Israel recommendations also in the comment section. And I will see y'all in the next video.